So hey folks, and welcome back to another bike review video, and this week we're on the awesome Aprilia Tuono 660 factory version, and this has been kindly lent to us from Aprilia UK, so thank you very much. We're just down at my favourite spot to have a walk round of this bike, which is Pine Lake, so if you're interested in the Aprilia, stay tuned, we'll be right back. So welcome back folks, and today, as I mentioned, the Aprilia Tuono 660 factory version behind me. So let's take a walk around the bike and run through some specs. Right, so the Tuono 660, now you can get it in a standard version which comes in at £9,700, or the factory version which comes in at £10,000. Colours in the standard version I'll put on screen now. They are black, grey, and then you can get the acid gold. The factory version that we've got here comes in the black and red, that's the only colour, but the difference is between the standard version and the factory version on power. You've got 95 brake horsepower on the standard with the same torque at 67 Newton meters, and the factory version I've got here has 100 brake horsepower, again at 67 Newton meters of torque. The differences between the standard and the factory version, obviously you've got the quick shifter and blipper on the factory version. The standard version it's extra, and also the lean sensitive traction control on the standard version you don't get it. So if you're an A2 license holder, you would need to have the standard version, the 95 horsepower version, which you can get a restrictor kit for. It can't be fitted to the factory version just here. So the engine on this bike, you've got literally half of the Aprilia V4. So they've literally cut the engine in half. You've got the front two cylinders, so you've got a parallel twin 270-degree crank, and like I mentioned, it pushes 100 horsepower, and that's at 10,500 RPM and 67 Newton meters of torque at 8,500 RPM. The weight of the bike is 183 kilograms wet, and this holds 15 litres in the fuel tank, which gives you a range of about 200 miles, and also you've got about 60 to 65 mile per gallon from that tank. The seat height is 820 millimeters, and this becomes a challenge for the smaller person on both the Tuono 660 and also the RS 660. Okay, so this is me sat on the bike. The actual riding position with the raised bars is more comfortable than the RS 660, with it being the Tuono. My feet in the riding position, so my legs are pretty much bent up. So if you're looking for a super comfy bike to do long distance, this is not it. But the tank is really sculptured, and as you can see here, it fits perfectly. If I was riding with my feet on the pegs like this, then it does reduce that a little bit, but I normally ride like this. The seat height, as I mentioned, is 820. Now I'm flat-footed, but if you were a shorter inside leg, then you might struggle a little bit, like I mentioned. Now I rode this bike back from Silverstone the other day, 190 miles of motorway work. Because of my leg position, with them being bent up so hard, I was in a little bit discomfort, but the seat is super comfortable. One of the comfiest seats I've sat on this type of bike ever. So it's just the leg position really that lets me down. So if you were to buy this bike, would it be good for long distance or even touring? I would say definitely not. Would it be good as an everyday bike or a Sunday blast bike? Absolutely. Bags of fun, really bags of fun on this machine. The rear brake is a single pot Brembo, again ABS on the rear. The front suspension is KYB, and this is fully adjustable suspension on the factory version, and then on the standard version I believe it's just one fork leg you have adjustment on. It comes on 4-pot Brembo brakes, and these are 320mm discs, and then you've got some lovely black wheels which are on 17-inch rims. You've got ABS as standard on the front and rear. The rear suspension is fully adjustable, monoshock on the rear. You can see just there the red adjuster and also the preload adjustment. And also I believe there's another adjuster on these which is not on show. You have to take this side panel off to get to it. The bike does come with a quick shifter, up and down blipper, and it is absolutely one of the sweetest blippers, and just with the sound of that engine, which has a character of, I would say, a V-twin, but it definitely has the sound from 6,000 RPM. You've got this induction noise which actually makes it sound like the V4. You do have rear foot pegs on this. I think I would take those off, because if you look at that rear seat, there's no way you could sit on that at all if you were a pillion. I do believe that comes off and you can get a pillion seat for it, but sitting on that would give you a bit of pain, I think. So the tyres on this bike are Pirelli Rosso Corsas. Styling on the bike, I think they've absolutely nailed it. You've got this little front fairing here. Now, I don't know who designed this at Aprilia, but it's a work of art. This bike must have been in a wind tunnel at some point, because there's absolutely clean air, no buffeting whatsoever while you're riding this bike, even at motorway speeds. One of the best aerodynamic bikes that I've ridden in years gone by. You've got wings or scoops that come in just here, and those really only take effect probably about after motorway speeds. I can tell you that they make the bike super stable. It's one of the cleanest pockets of air that I've actually ridden in on most bikes, especially naked bikes. Now, hopping on the bike, you've got the key position just here. So the dash is one of the best things about this bike as well. It's really, really intuitive and easy to read. And on here you've got various different things. You've got your rev counter, your mileometer, you've got your gear indicator, your mileage, you've got all your trip meters for your miles, for your average fuel per gallon, all those type of things, time, outside air temperature. You've also got some modes on this bike. So you've got individual, you've got commute, and you've got dynamic. I can actually go into those. You've got the engine power, which is actually a throttle management system. So 1 being the most responsive, 3 being the less responsive throttle. You've got engine braking from 1 to 3 as well. You've got traction control from 1 to 6, and then you've got wheelie control, which is on or off. Your ABS settings between 1 and 3, so you can set these 3 different modes: commute, dynamic, and individual, to the way you want them set up. There are 2 more modes which are aimed at the track. I'm not going to go into those, but again, you've got 2 focused track settings to use as well. On here, you've also got cruise control, which was a blessing coming up 190 miles on the motorway. You've got your mode buttons, you've got your LED headlight full beam and dip beam on the front, indicators and horn. On this side, you've got your running lights on or off, and then your start, stop, and your mode button. You've got fully adjustable brake lever and a non-adjustable clutch lever on the front just there. Mirrors do a good job. I do see a little bit at my elbows, but they're pretty stable at speed, no vibration. Now, the bike does come with lean sensitive traction control and ABS and all the bells and whistles. We're really getting the same suite of electronics that are on the bigger brother, the V4 1100 Tuono. So quality on the bikes, give it 5-star. It's got great components, it rides good, the suspension's good. Like I say, you can do motorway miles on it, but your legs might be a bit cramped up. The seat is super comfy, so no pain on the rear. Now, your competition, you've got the Triumph Trident, which is 80 horsepower and priced at 7,195. You've got the Yamaha MT7, which is 72 horsepower, priced at 6,899. And then you've got the Honda CB650R, which is 94 horsepower, so 6 horsepower off this, at 7,195. Now, above those 3, this bike wins hands down. It's got the most power and it's the most well put together bike that I've seen against the other competitors. But you've got a price difference. You know, you've got the 7,195 and the Triumph Trident, and this is at 10,000. So quite a jump, but you've also got quite a hike in quality suspension, brakes, and also the ECU and the slide control and all of that package. I would tend to put this bike in a category above, really competing with something like the KTM Duke 890, which is priced at 9,649, so nearly 10,000, and that produces 113 horsepower. So it's kind of aiming between that 900cc mark. It certainly goes like a 900cc. And just the sound, I'm going to take you out now for a ride, first ride on this bike. Actually, it's not the first ride, it's the second ride, because we've been up the motorway, which I can happily say was good. Let's get back on the bike, take this out, and take it for a first ride. Now, as I mentioned before, the screen on the bike is really good. Coming up the motorway, I was in clean, non-turbulent air, and I think the guys down at Aprilia must have had this bike in a wind tunnel at some point, and it's been designed around that, because it was perfect clean air, no buffeting, and I really think they've done a fabulous job. It does have wings built into the fairings on the front. Now, I've been told that these don't actually do much until you get up to over motorway speeds, so at about 80 or 90, and then they create downforce and stability on the bike. I can confirm that the bike is really stable once those start working, and also before. To a point where I would say it's the most stable bike I've ridden on a motorway with side winds and all of those kind of things. They really do work. So it's not just for looks, they've actually designed this on purpose. The throttle connection, with it being ride-by-wire, combined with all of that slide control and engine braking and ABS and all of those type of things, is really good. It's probably similar to my MT10 now. I've had it flashed, but I do have it in dynamic mode and set on power 1, which is the quickest throttle response. Now, as I mentioned before, the screen on the bike is really good. Coming up the motorway, I was in clean, non-turbulent air, and I think the guys down at Aprilia must have had this bike in a wind tunnel at some point, and it's been designed around that, because it was perfect clean air, no buffeting, and I really think they've done a fabulous job. Absolutely beautiful. So to me, a bike is about two things. It's about the way it looks stood still, which is a big tick for this bike, and also the way it sounds. That's part of the experience for me. And this thing, and I'll keep harping on about it because it does sound amazing. Now, the suspension's stock straight out of the crate. For me, I'm 95 kilograms, and it's pretty firm. Great for the road. Complements those Pirelli tyres. I think if there was one thing I'd adjust, is just the rebound on the rear shock is a little bit stiff, and I can feel that it's not actually matching the front when you go over bumps, so that would need to be sorted. But it's the same with every new bike. The suspension is not set up for you, and I say it time and time again. If you get the chance, go and see a suspension specialist, have your bike set up, and it's like night and day difference. The clutch on the bike is really light. You've got obviously an up and down quick shifter, which is pretty good. No need to use the clutch other than setting off and stopping. And what we'll do just now, we'll get some fuel before we head on our journey. Okay, just wanted to give you a rev test. I think you'll have to say that sounds quite meaty. Very nice. An absolute joy to ride. Now my only niggle with it really so far, and what we're going to do is we'll give you the last ride and final thoughts before we take it back in about 10 days time to Aprilia, is we'll let you know what we think. But first of all, yeah, the only niggle is just the foot position, with my legs being bent up, similar to a sport bike but with upright bars, so you are sat upright. Now, would I let that put me off buying one of these? Absolutely not. Just the fun factor of this thing and what most of us use bikes for these days. If you were going to go touring, definitely not the bike for it. But if you wanted to use it as a toy, a Sunday weapon, or the ride out here and there, then yes, absolutely, this bike, it puts a smile on your face every day and all day. Riding through town, the throttle position, obviously we've got it in dynamic just now. Let's see if we can change it. Okay, so that's individual and commute. So commute would be the least obtrusive in the throttle, and already I can feel the throttle is a lot smoother. So it depends really. I mean, in the individual mode you can set all the parameters to however you want it anyway. One thing I did find before was when I was hard accelerating in first and second, it wanted to lift the wheel, so this thing will wheelie, and that's why it has the wheelie control, and it did stop it about 6 inches off the ground and put the wheel back down. So I won't be turning that off just yet. But yeah, my preferred mode is, I'm used to quite dynamic throttle positioning, so I'll stick it back in that one. So yeah, this has been the first ride and the thoughts really on this 2022 Aprilia 660 Tuono factory version, and yeah, it's been a good one so far. Looking forward to getting more miles on this bike over the next 10 days before it goes back. But I can say it's a great bike. Yes, it's a little bit more pricey than its competition around that mid-cc range, and power-wise it pretty much sits up there with the 900cc naked bikes. And is it worth that extra couple of grand for what you get? Well, if you want premium, if you want all the bells and whistles, this has it, and you won't be disappointed with it. So if it's your first time tuning into the channel, appreciate if you can hit that subscribe button, ding that bell for future videos coming up, and we'll catch you all on another video soon, guys. Take care, enjoy the weekend and the rest of the week. Cheers, guys.